Today's conversation is with Mike Smith, the founder of ForeCollegeGolf. We cover everything from playing a competitive schedule with 2 kids under 4, all the way to why not caring about your golf swing might be the best thing you can do for your game. I hope you enjoy this conversation just as much as I did. You're a college golf consultant who's placed students at 90 universities, a 2-time Florida Foursomes champion, and according to your four-ball partner, the guy most likely to show up to a USGA championship first team missing a shoe. How is it possible to be all those things?
I don't know what I'd say back to him is man of many talents. No, but no, I've been really blessed and really lucky and really fortunate in my life to go a lot of places. I mean, I'm very one dimensional, right? I love the game. I'm a total golf nerd, history nerd, and now my daily life is I get to share that with junior golfers and their families, and also nerd out with college coaches occasionally.
That's
So,
great.
and just a little context on the shoes. I didn't plan on being at Philly Cricket for 6 or 7 days or whatever it ended up being. So the, the dogs were barking, as they say. And by the fourth or fifth day, I think there was no other option but to warm up in sneakers. So, and the greatest context ever is I gave the shoes to my dad. My dad's in the bathroom as we're about to tee off for the quarterfinals, and I have no shoes. I'm super reserved. I'm super laid back. I'm like really chill. Will's like, "Where are your freaking shoes?" Right? I mean, I would have the first. And by the way, the first tee is on a putting green, so like at 7:38 a.m. So you're slipping, right? Like you're in some on clouds. You're not gaining traction there. So luckily, Dad came out. I after I shook hands for the USGA official. Our opponents are that day, and then showed him like the marking on my ball. I had to go back, sit on the stairs, and lace them up. Which, luckily, at the Philly Cricket Club, you have the whole porch right there. Like it's very easy at the picking course. But it did cause some unneeded stress. So sorry, Will, and thanks a lot, Dad.
That's incredible. Hey, we're getting some early shout outs in. I love that. Well, speaking of your dad, you grew up very close to one of the most famous courses in the world. So I want to kind of go back there because that's going to be the more the origin story of your golf game. Growing up around TPC Sawgrass, a ton of people treat it like it's a pilgrimage and go pay hundreds of dollars to play there. And you had relatively close access. What does that kind of do to someone's relationship with golf when they're around a place like that so early, so often?
So I was really fortunate to grow up at TPC Sawgrass, but I think I took it for granted. Like as a 13, 14, 15-year-old, we were members growing up. And I think I see a lot of juniors, and I do my initial consultations at TPC Sawgrass. Like I got a kid coming in on Friday from Philly. And it's interesting. Like some kids now really still appreciate the history of the game, but most just want to rock and roll, right? Like their mecca is YouTube golf now, right? Not the history of the game. But there's so much history around Sawgrass, and I think I took that for granted a bit, and I took having some of the most fabulous, immaculate facilities for granted.
Hmm.
And now I certainly don't. We bought a house in the neighborhood 2 years ago. My golf cart is my primary method of transportation, and as Will and I like to say, I have a small life radius.
Yeah.
So so very fortunate though, and just able to share that with people now, right? Like bringing people in from all over the world, showing them the history of the players, actually having them experience playing the golf course, at very least practicing on the facilities for a little while, I think is really cool for most people. And it's a very welcoming place, right? It's a resort, so anybody that shows up and has the resources to pay and the want to go see it can. And I'm a little bit biased, and the Masters is super special. But as far as like viewing goes and family fun, like you can't really beat like being a spectator and a viewer of the Players Championship every year. So like we just had it this past month and or last month I should say, and a couple days of work only and networking and building relationships, and then a couple days where I'm literally just watching my son roll down the hill on number 3 and hoping he doesn't go in the water and get soaking wet. So like
That's incredible.
it's got a special place in my heart. I don't know how long we'll live here or how long
Mhm.
I'll be around, but they've been great to me up there, and the history of the player speaks for itself, and only gets stronger and better every year. And super cool to watch Cam Young get it done against Matty Fitz just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I may or may not have Fitz in my lineup for the Masters just because of that final round.
Likewise.
Yeah, I know that we'll see how well that take ages. I don't know. I've now said that twice on the internet before the Masters, so we'll find out.
I'm gonna train with you, so we'll ride that one to the sunset.
All right, perfect. Well, you played junior golf down in Jacksonville. You had a really nice career as a sub 18-year-old, and you get recruited by multiple programs, and you choose James Madison. Now,
Yeah.
we now will know how big James Madison is due to the Hoosiers. As a Purdue fan, a little painful, but why did you choose James Madison, and why was that maybe a great decision?
Luck. My coach came to me December of my senior year, and um, the story I tell all the time is that my dad and I went and visited a bunch of ACC and SEC schools, and I was a decent junior, but I wasn't good enough to like be a top dog at one of those programs. But the coaches were nice enough. I think I wrote letters nice enough, and I was presentable enough where they agreed to go on visits, or agreed to have me on a visit, I should say. And it really hurt my process where I had no actual offers up until October, November of senior year. And if anyone knows me or knows the recruiting cycle in college golf, that's super late. So I got an email from him, I think early December, my senior year. And back then you had an early signing window and a late signing window. Now it's, National Signing Day opens and you can sign whenever you want, right? So it was super late. I went up. I remember getting off the plane in Washington, D.C. and driving an hour and a half to Harrisonburg, Virginia, in this little farm town, and being like, where the heck are we? Right? Like rolling hill, beautiful, right? Like beautiful place. But being like, where the heck are we? And I met Coach, and I met some of the administrators and people that supported the golf program, and everyone was super nice. And at the end of the day, like this is nothing I would advise my own clients of, but they gave me the biggest offer. And I think the most I felt most at home with Coach than any other coach that recruited me, and I think he wanted me the most, and he showed me that he cared. And that was really the decision making factor for me. And I think I committed within a week or two after the visit, and signed in the late signing window a couple months later, and the rest is history. But growing up in Ponte Vedra, like I said, I was around a lot of good players, and I was fifth on my high school team. I had Tyler McCumber on my team, All American University of Florida. I had Kevin Phelan on my team, who was a DP World Tour player, European Tour player. He was an All American at North Florida, and then MJ McGuire, North Florida All American, and a couple other guys as well. So
Yeah,
it was, for me, I didn't have, I call it like the Ivy effect for some people. Like if they come from a small town, they never know, like, especially if you don't travel nationally or internationally, you never really know what's out there. I knew what was out there. Like I had played against the best early on, and I didn't play some of the biggest events in junior golf, but I'd always around those guys, even outside of my high school. So, and outside of those smaller events. So, was really fortunate in that, but I think that prepared me for college golf, and I hit the ground running right away. And my college roommate Chris Weldy, shout out Weldy. We were really able to like build a good relationship and support each other, even through those like 5:30 a.m. workouts early on, and all those things that you don't talk about when you're actually on the recruiting visit, and you don't realize how difficult it is to do it and be an independent young man at 18 years old. um, I had to realize that pretty quickly, and we were able to tag team it pretty well, and get in the starting five lineup at James Madison right away. So it was a pretty easy transition, but I think it's for most people, it's a big shock, and it's a really tough transition if you're not ready for it right there.
mm,
So
that's incredible. I want to go back to what you said about you didn't say it this way, but if you're the smartest in the room, probably time to find a different room. I was fortunate enough to have guys in the area that are playing professionally now, played at big programs. Like, and I grew up in a little central Illinois. Like, I got very fortunate that there were guys that were light years better than me. So I knew, all right, I'm not that guy. Like I know where I'm at in the food chain. For players who you have come in who are maybe say from a small town in Illinois who are the smartest in the room, best player in the room, if you will. What's your advice to them? either if they're tight on a budget, because that travel can get expensive quickly, or if it's like, hey, we just need to get you out and about and see where you're actually at on a national stage.
I think it's one of the most challenging conversations I have with families because one, if I have to meet them in person, which that's when I bring them to TPC and like see how they act and see what their swing is like and see how competitive they truly are. Right. But for example, like I have someone from West Texas right now. Like speaking with that young man, and one of the principles that I speak about is climbing the ladder in junior golf. Right. So similar to climbing a ladder and getting on your own roof, right? You can't skip rungs of that ladder. That's really dangerous. You might fall.
Yeah.
Right. So going from like small town local, US kids events straight to the AJGA or the Florida Junior Tour or national level competition, or better yet, US Junior, Western Junior, like big events, you really can't skip those rungs. So I tell players like build confidence where you're at, and if you truly feel like and you can prove that you've outgrown that locally, then go regionally. Once you've succeeded regionally, then go nationally. And that way you're climbing the ladder in the right manner and you're not missing those rungs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think that's super valuable. Obviously, our target demo is going to be guys with kids maybe who are a little under 10 or maybe teenagers or even looking at going to college. And so I'm excited to jump into that a little bit more later as well. I do want to go back to your time in college, making that transition. Obviously, JMU, you loved it. JMU also loved you very clearly. You were team captain. That's normally a senior thing. You were named a captain as a junior, as my understanding. What do you think your teammates or your coaches saw in you, and how do you kind of try to communicate that to players as they're moving into college?
Good question, Isaac. I had a really good sophomore year. So I was, you know, most people would call me the vocal leader, but I think I was also leading at that time with experience and with results, right? With performance. And a lot, by that time we lived off campus. We had our fun, but I think we also took golf really, really seriously. Um, and my coach was very militaristic in the sense of like, if you were 5 minutes early, you were late.
Yeah.
So, we were so freaked out, right? We didn't want punishment runs on the football field. We used to call them 220s. You'd have to start on the goal line, run 110 yards to the back of the other end zone and back in less than 35 seconds. No big deal, right? For your first one, 35 seconds, no problem. But when you're doing 5, 8, 10 of those, and for every minute you were late, you had one, right? So we were freaked out, right? In Harrisonburg, Virginia, like small farm town, you're not hitting traffic, you're not late, but we were so freaked out that we'd always be early. And my point from saying this, Isaac, is like, I think I led by example. I was always like at 5:30 a.m. workouts, which are not allowed by NCAA bylaws now or standards. We would get there at 5:10, 5:15, right? We'd be waking up, after a long night the night before on whatever night it was, Thursday night or whatever, at 4:50 and beelining it to the gym and getting in some pretty good workouts with the football coaches. So, but I think to answer your initial question, like we had a really close knit group of guys. We had a few internationals, but most everybody was from like the DC, like Baltimore, a couple guys from Philly, that Metro Atlantic area, I guess you could call it. And everybody was really close knit, really understood each other, and we did everything together. So that helped, and then me leading by performance, and also like kind of being the first one everywhere we went was I think a determining factor in that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I tell a lot of the guys here. I'm just a volunteer assistant, so I'm basically there as like the big brother. Like I'm not really, I'm just there hanging out. But I tell them a lot of times, like they'll get frustrated with the process or whatever it is, and it's like, man, I know you don't see it now, and I know it's frustrating because you feel like golf is everything, but you're building the skills that are going to allow you to succeed in life. And it sounds like JM, you did a really, really good job of setting you up for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of right after college, I mean, in 2014, you start ForeCollegeGolf, which is what you're doing now. You're working with 30 to 35 families at a time, producing 15 to 20 college signees a year across every single level of golf. You're working with families in 40 plus countries. What did you see during college or right after college that made you think that you needed to build something in this space?
Well, I worked with a guy named John Brooks, who was the coach at UNF. Brought them from an NAI school, an NAI program, all the way up to Division One. And if anyone knows anything about UNF golf, I'm friends with a lot of those past players there, and a bunch of guys on Corn Ferry Tour now. They've done an exceptional job. So John actually mentored me in junior golf, and then also I came to him after college and said, "Hey, can I come work for you?" He politely declined. He said, "No, but I'll help you start your own company." Right? And I picked his brain, and I think even without John's assistance and mentorship, I realized like how vast the landscape is in college golf and how many mistakes are made. So what I tell families now, Isaac, is like, I'm the bumpers to your bowling lane.
Mhm.
Right? I can't throw the ball for you, right? For analogy's sake here, I can't throw
Yeah.
the ball for you. I can't tell you how to hit the pins, right? You got to go perform, and you got to do it well. But I'm going to make sure that you don't make mistakes. I'm going to make it a lot easier and streamline that process for you.
Yeah. That's really interesting. What is maybe the biggest thing that those parents are getting wrong about recruiting?
I think you hear it all the time, but starting early enough. That's it. I believe that recruiting is it truly happens on a timeline. I got really bored during COVID. I called over like 300 coaches, and I made a verbal commitment timeline chart and just asked coaches generally like, when do you make your final decisions, right? When do you actually extend offers, and when do those recruits say yes? So I realized that, and secret sauce here, right? A little bit, but recruiting happens on a timeline, and it's very specific for each level. Now it does change depending on what the situation is, or if they're looking in the transfer portal, or depending on do they have juniors and seniors that are vacating the roster. But generally speaking, timing is the most important thing. But and then the next thing I would say is like taking your ego out of it as a junior golfer and having someone give you an honest take about where they think you fit. Right. And it's hard because parents and families come to me and they say, well, we played against this player and he's on the roster, but they committed 2 years ago. Right. And with the transfer portal, with the NIL stuff, the roster cap now in Division One, everything's very fluid. There's less chairs in the room right now, so it's harder to get recruited. There's more coaches looking in the transfer portal, more guys going into the transfer portal. So with less seats in the room, more guys moving around, this only gets more turbulent, right? More hectic. So my job's actually gotten harder to place players, but I've had more interest from families because their job's harder too.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, there's definitely a dad listening whose 13-year-old kid just broke 80 for the first time. Not gonna say that that was me, but that was definitely me. Thinking, D1 or bust. You find, he's trending. What does that dad or parent need to hear?
I think at 13, if we're being specific here, at 13, you have to ask yourself, is this more about the experience for my son or daughter? Or is this more about exposure? Right. And I would argue at 13, right, at the D1 level, coaches cannot communicate with you until June 15th after your sophomore year. Right. So most times that's 15 or 16. So you'd still have 2.5 years where I would argue that experience and development and learning is absolutely still the primary factor. Right. Going on visits, great. If you want to go put your boots on the ground, you can't meet with the coach at that point, and the coach can't meet with you. But put your boots on the ground and go explore. Awesome. I'm not against that. It's one of the smartest things to do to start to figure out what you want. And what I've realized over the last dozen years in college golf is that it really does take putting your boots on the ground, seeing the stuff, right? Like the infrastructure, the buildings, the facilities, which is, the ooh and ah factor that people look at, but it's also meeting the people. And like I just explained with Coach Forbes at James Madison, for me it wasn't just the stuff; it was truly the people. And I still see that come true with every single family and every single player I work with. They make their decision more based on the people that are there. And luckily with technology now, we can do Zoom calls, we can do podcasts like this, we can do FaceTimes from all across the world. But I think the true moment that a lot of guys see is like they put their boots on campus, they meet coach, they meet the team, and they get the feel of like, could I actually see myself being happy and successful at this university? And a lot of I think a lot of parents, they don't some parents don't relate when I say this, or they don't understand this answer when I say this, but I truly, when my players go on campus visits, when they meet college coaches for the first time and they love it, I can hear it in their voice.
Mhm.
It's more of a feeling, right? And we all
Yeah.
want this thing to be, the offer and the amount of the scholarship is tangible, right? And the size of the golf facility is tangible, and the results from the program is tangible, and all other outcome oriented things. But truly, the best fit, in my opinion, in college recruiting, it comes down to the feeling that you get when you're there, not just with the coach and the team, but also the people at the university, and the culture, and even the surrounding town in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I
So
I really couldn't agree more. I mean, I know for myself, I still talk to tons of guys that I played with every single day. Like, not just like every once in a while reach out. Like, I talk to the guys I played with every single day. And I know Hayden, who co-hosts this podcast sometimes, played at Dayton. He still talks to a ton of those guys every single, like, those relationships are what you remember the most about college golf.
well, and how fortunate are we, right?
Yeah.
Like, not every college program has that.
Yeah.
And not everybody can say that. And I just went on a boys trip to Kiowa. We haven't done too many, but we just went to Kiowa Island, played the ocean course, caddies, like one of the most memorable walks I think I'll ever take with my guys. And just sitting, like, we don't do sweet trips like that all the time, but like sitting on that back patio with the guys that I was in the trenches with 15
Yeah.
years ago, and looking back now we have wives and children, and we've gone on, and some of us have gone on and done some pretty special things in the professional world. Like, sitting there and just taking that all in is like, it really gives me goosebumps, and it
Yeah.
really makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. So, and that's what I would encourage junior golfers to look for too, is like, look for guys that you can really forge relationships with. Look for guys that you're going to get along with, um, and you're not going to have to force it. Like, it can be a very natural thing if you allow it. And the cool part, Isaac, is that you don't have to be from the same walk of life. You don't have to have the same faith necessarily. You don't have to agree upon everything, but you got to be there for your brother,
Yeah.
right? You gotta want to go to battle and be super competitive. I think that's at every level now, even the Division 3, or even the NAIA level, right? Golf is getting super competitive, but in terms of searching and finding that right school, it's the people you're going to want to be around 24/7, and be really excited to go to battle with.
Yeah. And you said in an interview that your real goal is to make better young men and women, not just necessarily better golfers. What does that actually look like when you're sitting on the back patio at TPC Sawgrass? You got a 16-year-old slamming a bacon burger and you got some parents sitting there stressed out. What does that
Yeah.
conversation practically look like?
Well, that's very real what you just said. Like, that's a very realistic scenario. Um, well, I would start here. My passion is not college recruiting. Right?
Mm,
And I say this on every prospect meeting. My passion is not college recruiting. My passion is getting to know a junior golfer and their family. And I'm very fortunate. Like, I get to know people from all walks of life, from all over the country, and all over the world. Different cultures, different backstories, different upbringings. So the first thing I do when I sit on that back patio is try to eat my food as quick as possible, and then get to know them and ask questions, and be really, really curious about who they are and where they've been, and really try to get a good feeling for what's in their heart and what do they care about. And some players, like I'm more of a I care about how I play, right? I still compete at a very high level, and I want to, and I care. And some 15, 16-year-olds just don't, right? They want to go to college, and they want to be somewhat competitive. I think that's a prerequisite. But at the end of the day, like, the degree that they get, the experience that they have, and the memories they make, that's way, way higher up their totem pole than it is mine.
yeah.
So to answer your question though, like, the first thing I do is I get really curious and I ask them about themselves. Like, what do you do on a Friday night? What's interesting to you? And then, obviously I ask them, like, tell me more about your game. What are your superpowers? Like, what are the things that you've struggled with? And what are some big stepping stones or memorable moments that you've had already in your junior golf career? And
Yeah.
then that facilitates into, okay, where do you want to go? Right. Then we plan out, okay, where is the holy grail? Is it professional golf? Is it walking across the stage with a great degree and mom and dad, with tears running down their face? Like, what is the end goal for them? Not their parents, not, their coaches, not anyone else, for them. Um, and most families I work with, if they're truly open and honest about it, they're able to answer that with some thought and with some experience. But my passion is watching them grow, watching them develop, and watching them. It sounds corny, but watching them go and pursue to reach their dreams.
Yeah.
Right? We don't all reach our dreams, right? If we don't put in the effort and the time, and sometimes it comes down to sheer talent, right? Or funding and
Yeah.
the resources that we have. We don't all get there, but at the stance that I take is at 14, 15, 16 years old, with some of the elite players, right? I get them at 14. Who am I to say that they can't go and attend Wake Forest and play there, right? They still
Yeah.
have a story to write. They still have the last chapter of their junior golf career yet to be written. So there are times where I have to put my foot down and say, hey, this is unrealistic, especially once we get into like junior year and senior year. But until then, it's more like, how can I equip that young man or young woman with the right tools from a resources standpoint, but also life skills with my experience and my knowledge and all the mistakes that I've made to go and be successful themselves.
Yeah. Man, that's some good stuff. I think it's interesting that you work with players all over the world. Like all of these players are coming into North Florida to work with you to get placed at a university. And your competitive career also has a very interesting international element to it. Can you talk to me about how you and Will originally became either friends or decided that you were going to be partners in a bunch of these events?
It's the silliest thing, Isaac, but we always say, I can't even say this with a straight face. We met at the Invitational. Francis Womet, right? In the night, I think it was the early 1900s, 19 teens. I don't know enough about history to know what was going on at that point, but legendary amateur, right? Won the U.S. Amateur at some ungodly young age. So I was able to play the U.S. Amateur in 13, and then I got invited to the Francis Womet, which is in the Boston area, which is where my wife's from, and we still go back all the time, and one of the greatest cities on earth, I think. But Will and I first met at Salem College, Christian College. I think we wheeled in a suitcase full of beer at that point, right? I was 25 at that point. I think Will was just finished up at Yale, or was finishing up at Yale, and just hit it off those couple days. And being both Florida boys and having a little taste of the Northeast as well, kind of related to each other. I'd love to hear his take on this, but related to each other, and then supported each other and kept in touch, and then got the opportunity to play a couple 4-ball qualifiers with minimal success, and then the foursomes, like you mentioned earlier in the intro. Not a huge event, right? I wouldn't say it's a massive event, but for us at the time, like playing alternate shot, having all that stress and pressure and putting it on each other, and realizing like how good we were together mentally and emotionally, and also how our games complement each other. We are exact opposites. Like, I am a horrible iron player. I don't go preaching that to all the junior golfers listening to that. I think you don't go preach your weaknesses all the time, but um, relatively speaking, the iron game is the worst part of my game. And Will is an amazing iron player. We're both great drivers of the golf ball. We're both great putters, and I would say my hands are a little bit better around the greens. And just realizing how our games complement each other was really special. And that you kind of the blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? We were able to put it together those 2 years and realized we had something special there, so we kept doing it. And then late 2020, we qualified for the US four ball at Chambers in 21. COVID restrictions were crazy. Getting out there was crazy. We played horrible. And then we went and qualified again the next year. I was like, okay, let's go do something. We missed it by a shot at Birmingham. Will made a putter change because he felt like that, missing the cut there for match play was like all on him, which it wasn't. He made a putter change. His game really elevated with his green reading and now being a sweeper with the broomstick. His putting got so much better. Like he strokes it better than I do, and I think I read greens really well. But then when we got to Philly Cricket, it really felt like home. Like even the Gap Golf Association of Philadelphia, they put me as a local in there, and I'm not. I have some family ties up there, but they said local Will Davenport and Mike Smith. Like they made me feel really at home, and that whole week was just like that. That was our pinnacle so far together. I think we got a lot more in the tank, and we were hoping to lift the USGA trophy, and we really felt like we were going to do it that week. But to give a long-winded answer to your question, that was our pinnacle, and it was really cool that week because we were able to just take the lid off. Like we were playing with house money, nothing mattered, and we were real. It's just such an enjoyable place, and we were able to like enjoy every single moment there, and we were able to play some really special golf together. So that your question started with how did we meet, but that's pretty much our relationship start to finish. We don't get a lot of time together because we are professionally we're full out all on. He lives 4 hours south of me now. We don't live that close, but we're texting every day. We're chatting about our games or who we're picking for the Masters or what it may be. But it's fun because when we get together, his intensity, we always try to match up our intensity, and intellectually, I can never match his intensity, right? Or his. I'm not even smart enough to say the terms here, right? But like his ability to think and always come up with the right answer. Can I tell a quick story real quick?
Of course.
One of those US four balls, we played Lago Mar Country Club, a really nice private Jewish club in South Florida. The first hole is a dogleg left par five around a huge lake. And this is 3 minutes to tee off, right? He goes, Mike, I think the line's over here. And he stands and he directionally with his arm, he aims me 45 degrees left of this tee box, left of the lake. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to hit it down 18. So long story short, we asked the rules official and the starter that day, is this allowed? Is there internal out of bounds? No, there's no internal out of bounds. So this, just to illustrate this pond is massive, right? Like, and if you go on the left side, you have to go hit your second shot into the par five and then walk backwards just to go to the hole. There is no other way around. So we both pump it down the left side. Will hits it into the bunker. I hit it to like 15 feet, and I roll in the 15-footer for eagle. The next year, and this just shows you Will's smarts, right? And how brilliant he is. The next year, we get on the same tee, having to qualify again, and they said, sorry, boys, it's internal out of bounds.
See, that's one of those like internal out of bounds feels like one of those things where it's like, man, just design a better golf course. That's kind of where I'm at with internal out of bounds, but that's a tangent.
I'll show you the hole. It's pretty ridiculous because it's a pace of play issue, and it's probably also a safety issue once there's guys on 18.
What'd you say it was called?
Lago Mar, Lagomar.
I'll put up an overlay on this.
The 10th tee box there. We took it down the 18th hole, and it cuts off 40 yards. It's the most brilliant play ever, right?
Like, I love that.
We hit 5 irons in, and some of the guys even longer than us were hitting 3-woods into that hole.
That's incredible. That's
easy eagle. He birdies the next. I birdie the next after that. We're 4 under through 3, and it's like, all right, let's just protect now. Let's just make some pars and maybe find some birdies on the par fives coming in.
That's incredible. Well, speaking of interesting stories and being resourceful, you're pretty resourceful yourself. Can you walk me through? You're walking up 18 at Plainfield. You think you've got a putt that you maybe saw earlier. Maybe somebody else had hit it earlier. You go to pull out your phone. What was the situation there?
So we're sitting on the back. We played Plainfield the day before. It was blowing, like no exaggeration, it was blowing 35 the day before, and it's probably blowing 40 or 45 the next day. So incredibly difficult. And that's, you see the scores. I think we shot, can't remember, but I think we shot 1 under to make match play last year, or 2 under maybe. So we were sitting on the back patio the day after the first round of stroke play, and I watched Sam Bradford hit this putt. So cool, right? Like watching an NFL quarterback play in the US four ball, I'm all eyes on him, right? I'm big into fantasy. I'm big into NFL. I'm a huge Jaguars fan. I'm like, let's see if Bradford can make this par putt. And it's the, as you know, the USGA changes the hole locations very slightly. So what did I do? I went and looked. Okay, this putt was almost dead straight when I saw Bradford hit it the day before. I go to pull up my phone. Will's like, you cannot do that. So I put the phone right back in the pocket. I'm like, such an idiot. Can't do that. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this putt's almost dead straight. So full context for those listening out there. Will and I didn't play very well. We felt like we were going to miss the cut. We made a couple just clutch pars on 15 and 16 at Echo Lake during the four ball last year. And then Will rolls in a 15-footer on 17 for birdie. And then we looked at the leaderboard and we pretty much knew we had to make 3. And I hit a pitching wedge out of the right rough, lands on the front of the green, rolled out probably 20 yards to about 5 feet in the exact same spot Bradford was. And honestly, wasn't overly nervous, but knew that, all right, if I can align my putter face to the back of this hole, make a half decent stroke, there's a chance that we're going to be dancing in match play again this year. Knocked it in. I think Will's reaction was way more impressive than mine. I'm not much of a fist pumper. I'm not much of of too much of showing emotion. I think I've changed that since, because he gave me a hard time on not showing enough emotion. I still watch this video for motivation all the time. He gives it a yes, Mike, yes, like a huge burst of emotion, and then about tackled me on the 18th green because he knew that. Now, in hindsight, we would have been in the playoff for match play anyway, but it was like I think it was a very small chance to make it. A bunch of teams for a few amount of spots. So looking back, it was one of the coolest moments of the last couple of years for me, and it's just always awesome to go to battle with him and see the emotion ooze out of him when I do something good, and I'm the same way. I mean, the amount of times I slapped him on the butt or got in his ear on the second tee box and said, "Let's freaking go. We're bombing 2 balls right at that target. Like, let's send these." Right? Just picking each other up, and I think that's the cool part about team golf and mid-am golf and being there for your boys.
And that's sick. You guys obviously compete at a super high level, but you're also a dad. You also run a business. You're a very busy guy. What does your practice look like in a given week? And like the real version, not necessarily, we've all got we all hit 7-iron 205 in our heads. The kind of like, what's my average 7-iron? What's my average practice week look like?
Yeah. Would not recommend this to any junior golfers or any college golfers out there. My superpower is chipping. And I'm a big believer that you cannot spend more time on your weaknesses than your strengths, or else you'll be average at everything. So the one thing I do, especially when I know I have a tournament in the next 2 or 3 weeks, like right now, I'm getting ready for US Open local. I go straight into the Florida Mid-Am, and then we have US Four Ball. So my big month is May and a little bit into June with the Florida Am and everything there. So one of the main things I do every single week is I go and I hit multiple chips on different lies, trying to hit as many variable shots as I can with one club, with 56 degree. Right. And growing up, I don't know if this is interesting to anybody out there, but growing up, I was around Mark McCumber, 14-time tour winner. And he was, I think the thing that has stayed consistent is like get the ball on the green as soon as you can from a chipping standpoint and roll it out from there. Right. Now let me retract that. You are seeing a lot of guys chip with one club and put as much spin on the ball as possible now. But I think for the most part, if we do aim at flags, if we do short side ourselves, you still have to land the ball just on the green and spin it as quickly as you can. So I'm on a regular practice day, Isaac, I'm trying to find as many impossible chip shots as possible, make sure I can make the cleanest, best contacts to put the maximum amount of spin on the ball. And I do that for about 3 hours a week when I'm trying to gear up and get ready. I don't have that much time usually, but about 3 hours a week, I am just chipping.
Yeah.
And then I like to get dialed on the range a little bit, especially if I've had a little bit of time off. Going and getting club fit. I think as a mid-am, like making sure my body's ready to go. Full gym session or just going and foam rolling and doing some PT work, I think is huge. And then a couple, 3-4 days before, get some money games, right? Get the juices flowing, like go out and compete with some buddies and go try to score. And I think my biggest asset now is it's not my hands, it's actually my mind now. Knowing that, and I think this comes back to my faith, like knowing whether I play great or play bad, like I know I have a creator in Jesus Christ and the Lord, but also like my wife is still going to hug me when I get home and my boys are going to be so excited to see me with a smile on their face. That makes playing golf so much easier. Whereas when I was in college golf, living and dying on every shot, showing emotion on purpose sounds ridiculous, right? But I still see it all the time in junior golf and college golf. Showing emotion almost on purpose to show others like that you think you're better than you actually are that day. If that makes sense? Like putting on a show, I call it.
Yeah.
Right? We're not out there to put on a show anymore. We're out there to seize an opportunity that we have and play the best possible round of golf, because if you seize the opportunity today, that opens doors for opportunities down the road. And I think the mentality is the same whether you're in junior golf, amateur golf, or pro golf, right? You play well, you're going to open doors. And that's what really keeps me motivated, and that's why I go practice, and that's why we stay hungry. But I love team golf. I think competitive golf, I played professionally for 6 months. It gets lonely and it gets tough. And it really takes a special breed to want to go and do that. Not only talent wise, but also, mentally and emotionally as well.
That's great stuff. You spent over a decade helping other people's kids figure out their path in golf. When your boys are old enough to pick up a club and ask you about competing, what's the first thing that you're going to try to hammer home with them?
Hit it as hard as possible. My oldest Lucas is 3.5 now, and we're trying to figure out if he's lefty or righty.
Nice.
So right now we have 2 U.S. kids clubs cut to the same length, same specs. The first club he had was a lefty hybrid. We call it a star hybrid in the household because it has a U.S. kids star on the sweet spot. So literally, I think with my own experience, one of the things I've told my wife and myself is like, I will not be a crazy dad. I'll never be that overbearing dad. Or the thing I tell parents now is like, praise effort and praise. What do I say? Praise effort and experience. Don't praise outcome or result. So with my own son, what does that look like? Well, we're teeing up foam balls in the backyard, or we're hitting hybrids off the little turf mat. And I'm just telling him, like, hit that ball in the star as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Right. And right now he's the lefty club. He's always been cross-handed because when he was 1.5, he couldn't hold it the right way or swing it the right way. So with a righty club, he's actually got the proper grip now. But with his favorite lefty club, he's still sweeping them cross-handed off the mat.
That's sweet.
So it'll be interesting to see the growth and the dynamic in that, and also how my youngest isn't even walking yet, but he's getting there. It'll be interesting to see, where what they find interesting and where they go with the game. But I'm just, they got some great friends, and they're just getting them jumping and kicking and having fun is really the pinnacle for me right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you got the chance to read the Kevin Van Valkenburg, Scotty Scheffler article, but it was a longer one. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. But he talks a little bit about 2 things. One, cross training, like Scotty Scheffler played basketball in high school and all this other stuff. It's like, that's if one of the best golfers of the generation is doing all this stuff, like your kids shouldn't be afraid to cross train. Now, I'm not a parent. I'm not okay. Hey, once this is armchair analysis. But the second thing they talked about was Scotty's parents would never ask him what he shot or how he
Mm.
played. They'd ask if he had fun. They'd ask if he made new friends. I think that's a great way to look at golf. I've more looked at golf that way as I've become a mid-am. Like I turned 25 last year. I went into last season like I haven't competed since college. I'm just gonna have fun. I'm gonna enjoy talking to people, and it's like it was the best golf I ever played. I'm like, okay, well, I can't get away from that. Like I just got to really enjoy getting business cards and talking to people and getting phone numbers, and like that's the fun part. And so I think that applies for sure to everyone. Um, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, but like I said, I'd highly recommend that
Well,
KVV
I
article. It's
kind of had
good.
the same experience, into my mid-am career as I turned 25. Like when you don't care as much about the outcome, the expectations are lessened by
Mhm.
definition,
Yeah,
right? So the lid's off,
yeah,
right? You can truly reach your full potential when you don't have a benchmark or something in mind. And I was just talking with a mental coach, Matt Cucaro from Hilton Head, Telos Psychology, one of the best I think in the industry. And I was telling him how now there's rounds where unless I shoot 66 or something bonkers for me, right, in a competitive arena, I don't know when I'm at.
yeah,
Guys ask me like, "What'd you shoot today?" As I'm walking into scoring, I have no idea. And if that would have been the farthest thing from the truth in junior golf and college golf for me.
hmm
So I really think mentally and emotionally that's the holy grail for us, is to get to a point where we're just enjoying every moment. We're trying to learn from every day, every experience that we have, and just grow as golfers, but also grow as people.
yeah,
And and the specialization dilemma, like you were saying with KVV and the Scotty article, I think it's only becoming harder to actually talk about that with parents, because there is a time where we do have to specialize or you're going to fall behind,
yeah,
right? But it's not at 13, it's not at 12, it's not at 11. And even for some late bloomers, it's not at 14 or 15 either. There's guys that come to me and they say, the only thing I care about is getting a great degree and going somewhere where I can make memories, and they're truly focused on their academics first and golf second. Go play hockey, go play baseball. Like,
yeah,
you don't have to specialize right now, especially if you got your boys counting on you to go play those sports, right? And you truly enjoy them, and they're probably only helping your athleticism at the end of the day.
yeah,
You see that with Scotty. You see that with Jordan Spieth. Spieth was really the one that started the conversation back in like 2015 and 16 when he was on that illustrious run. Like, he didn't specialize, I think, till he was 17.
yeah.
And look at him now, right? And that's another dark horse I think for the Masters this year, is like, we know he's got some magic left in this place. We know there's still some battle wounds and scars, same as Rory, but I would not be surprised if he was up there come Sunday. So,
Man, that
but
would be, yeah, that'd be electric.
my advice there to tie a bow on this would be specialize when it's the right time for you, and you have to have the right coaches to tell you when that time is. And I think it's different for everybody. The holy grail of mental and emotional control in golf is like figuring out how to get to a place where outcomes don't matter to you. Score doesn't matter. You are strategically and tactfully picking apart that golf course with your game and doing it the best way possible. I'm a golf history nerd, but I'm also a course management nerd. I think Will tell you this. I'm telling him the proper target down to like not the tree, not the branch on the tree, but like the twig on the branch.
Yeah,
And the center of the fairway is not the proper target, right? And I think these are all the things that are missed in junior golf because they haven't hit their peak yet. They haven't touched their ceiling yet. And there's a little bit of low hanging fruit to clean up. And usually it's course management or mental stuff.
yeah,
So, like, if I were to give the best advice that's probably underappreciated to junior golfers, it's learn course management and obsess over it for your game. Learn your strengths and weaknesses, and also get to a place mentally and emotionally where you can forget about the outcome and be truly present on each and every
mm.
golf shot.
And that's some good stuff. We're gonna have to hop back on the horn after your season's over. We can do a little recap. Maybe we get Will on here too. Do a little like that would be a blast. So as I've got a laundry list of things I would love to talk about with both of you guys. But thanks again for the time, Mike. This has been just an unbelievable conversation, man. This has been so good. If people want to follow your competitive season or learn more about For College Golf, where can they find you?
I'm going to do a much better job this year. I wasn't very active on Instagram last year. I just had so much going on. But ForeCollegeGolf.com or ForeCollegeGolf on Instagram. FORE College Golf on Instagram.
I'll have both of those links below. Thanks again, man. This was unbelievable. I'm really looking forward to the next time we get to chat. And yeah,
appreciate the conversation, Isaac, and I love the brotherhood, man. So looking forward to getting to know you and watching this podcast take off and see where we can go with it.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks again for the time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Like I said, if you want to find Mike or if you got questions about college recruiting, go ahead and drop them down below. I'll send them your way. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week.